John, I just want you to know that I'm not bald. I actually chose to shave off hairs here. They're about 6. And the tall gentleman in the back row of the choir, I'm sorry about the level of our soffit this morning. There was a seeker, you might say a spiritual pilgrim, that whose life was falling apart. And he was devastated, and he was looking for meaning in life. I quote, and probably many of us are. I want to discover the meaning of life. So he went to his minister, the Methodist minister, and he asked the minister, what is the meaning of life? You must know. And after a lengthy discussion, the minister finally acknowledged that he didn't know the meaning of life. So he referred this seeker to a Roman Catholic mystic. And the same thing happened. He went to the mystic, and after much discussion, the priest said, I don't know the meaning of life either. But I can refer you to a Sufi mystic in Damascus. So the man sold some of his belongings and went to Damascus and appeared before the Sufi master. And after much discussion, the Sufi master said, you know, I can't precisely tell you what the meaning of life is, but I do know of a guru that sits in a cave on a mountaintop in the Himalayas that apparently is over 900 years old and lives on nothing but prana, on his breath, breathing in the essence of life. And the man was so desperate, as some of us get, that he sold his house and the rest of his belongings and went to India and the Himalayas. And when he got to India, he sold what remained of his belongings to get the stuff to climb up the mountain. And he started climbing in the Himalayas, and life was fading from him, but he made it. He finally made it and pulled himself up over the last step up into the level plateau, and there in front of him was the cave with this great teacher sitting inside, just sitting in silence. And he all but crawled to the teacher and said, oh, great master, tell me the secret of life. And the guru paused and looked into his eyes and spent a long time just in total silence, and finally said, oh, my child, the meaning of life is the rose. And rather indignant, the seeker kind of opened his eyes and said, the rose? And the guru said, do you mean it's not the rose? Now, that story has more of a purpose than just to be humorous. One is we often need to climb mountains, or it's biblical imagery, to a higher level of awareness. You might call it a more private, personal, quiet level of awareness in order to discover the meaning for our own life. The other thing that it conveys is in the scripture for this morning. And it often discourages us from climbing the mountain of meditation or quietness, which Mark will be dealing with at 10:45 in his class. And the discouraging part of it comes when we start climbing the mountain of meditation and quietness. A lot of things happen. And it was reported. Did you catch it in the scripture for this morning? First, there was an incredible wind that was so destructive that it destroyed the rocks. But then it says, but the Lord was not in the wind, which is a way of saying The truth that they were seeking was not in the wind. And then it said, and then there was an earthquake, disruption, perturbation. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. Then it says, and then there was fire. Burning, singeing fire. The Lord was not in the fire. And then it ends the scripture by saying, and then there came a still small voice. In the New Jerusalem Bible it says, and then there came the sound of silence. I have to say right at the outset, and a lady named Martha Beck helped me with this, as well as my own reflections, as well as years of daily quietness and daily meditation. And I have to say that in addressing our own healing and wellness, which is a series that the adult ed class is conducting these days, it is foundational that we still our minds and still our bodies and discover the sound of silence. And I'll get to the reason for that in a moment. But I do want to say we're a society that doesn't pay much attention to silence. I would say we're a society that has a lot of trouble doing no thing or nothing. In fact, our worth is measured by doing something. Our worth is measured by the amount of work that we do. Is this going off?
When you turn.
Oh, turn it. I can't turn this way because it goes off. It's often measured by the amount of work we do, or how much we accomplish, or our level of living that is usually embraced by how addicted we are to work or to activity. This society, the United States of America, is a society that doesn't know how to rest. We spend more time at work than any other society in the world. Some people in some cultures even take naps, but we don't. It's a waste of time. Now I have to acknowledge something. It's a confession. That I was sorely tempted to not say anything during my commentary today.
Wow.
And just have 20 to 25 minutes of silence. And I didn't do it for two reasons. They're very specific. One was an ego reason. I thought that we're so accustomed to hearing me preach that it wouldn't be right for me not to preach. And you would be disappointed. And that's really a confession, because, I have to acknowledge that. That was part of my thinking. Either expecting a sermon, I better give a sermon. The other reason, and perhaps the stronger reason, that in spending 20 to 25 minutes in silence in worship, you might consider it a waste of time. Because many people have told me repeatedly that meditation doesn't work for them and it seems to be a waste of time. Am I correct in that, Mark? A waste of time in a society that is so addicted to activity that doing no thing is literally defined as accomplishing nothing. When maybe nothing is exactly what we need to accomplish. I have a cell phone right here. Now, who the hell would carry a cell phone into worship? Everybody! I turn mine off. But before a movie and sometimes before concerts, etc., people say, would you please turn off your cell phone? Some people don't. They turn off the ring, but they leave the vibrator on in case something might happen. We tweet and we Twitter and we Facebook and there's an advertisement that of a family on vacation, and they're in the wilderness, and the man is carrying pursuing his business on his cell phone while the family is vacationing. And what it's advertising is not vacations. It's advertising cell phones.
Right.
That's sad. Last Tuesday and Wednesday I spent in Mesa at the Board of Ordained Ministers. I'm a member of the Conference Board of Ordained Ministers. And I turned on CNN when I went to the motel room that night. We don't watch CNN because we don't have cable. We discovered that 97 channels as opposed to 6 channels means that there's 97 channels with nothing on it.
Right on.
Instead of 6 channels. But I turned on CNN. I was amazed. We don't get CNN. But on CNN, there was the announced, the newscaster. That's one aspect of stimulation. Then below the newscaster, there was a ticker thing that told you what the market was doing. And below that, there was a script, a line of telling you all the update news. And then there were bubbles that appeared that had more information. And there was one other, and I can't remember it right now, but there were 5 areas of stimulation. And it's true. If you watch CNN, you can acknowledge that's what's happening. That's overload.
Yes, sir.
And it's the opposite. It's the absolute opposite of the sound of silence. There are days when I come into the office and I have over 100 emails from one night. And if I go the full weekend, it sometimes says your mailbox is full. The interesting aspect of my saying that is that technology has been advanced in order to give us more time to do nothing. But instead of it giving us the time to do nothing, we become addicted to the innovations of technology, which makes our days more stressful. And in our stress, the technologists will invent more technology to ease the time so that we can spend more time doing nothing. We catch the trap that we're in.
Information overload.
Yeah, thank you. It is information overload. The reason I'm addressing this is twofold. One is because our task force on health and wellness asked me to address the issues that they were going to be dealing with on a week-to-week basis. The second and more important, and I knew Mark was going to be here, Mark and Linda, but the second more important reason is that we've forgotten how to be quiet. And as we read the Bible, and as we read sacred literature, and as we read at least the information that we have on the life of Jesus, we have to acknowledge that the prophets were constantly going up to a mountain. And Jesus was constantly going away to pray. The whole Hebrew tradition and the Decalogue says, on the 7th day thou shalt do nothing. Nothing. The Sabbath. And it's meant to honor God. The Sabbath is meant to honor God. Now what does that mean? Rest. A day of rest to honor God. I'm going to repeat it, so bear with me. But it relates to the topic this morning. And what Mark will be dealing with in an adult bit. 20 to 80 billion years ago. And the reason it's 20 to 80 billion years ago is that I talked to a physicist, a retired physicist and astronomer from the University of Arizona this week, and I asked him to confirm the information of the Big Bang 80 billion years ago, and he said it wasn't 80 billion years ago, it was 20 billion years ago. Well, who cares? A long time ago, there was a big bang. All of us were directly involved in that big bang. Not in the consciousness and physical properties that we presently see in front of us, but none of us would be here were it not for that big bang. And the reason I'm drawing attention to it is that the microscopic non-particles that started to exist at that Big Bang, or subatomic particles, somehow became atomic particles. And then they became molecules. And then they became megamolecules. And then they became cells. And then jump a few years. Then they became us. And this whole process happened. And you need to read the books and listen to the programs in order to realize this. This whole process happened because creation was willing to listen, to be still and know, but they were willing to do one more thing. And I'm not sure my language is appropriate, but the picture that I'm visualizing is appropriate. They did one more thing. They responded. And if you read the books, the physics books and the quantum physics books, they don't know how it happened. They only know that it happened, and everything seemed to be at the right place at the right time with the right ratio and the right distance, etc. And they responded, and they evolved into something greater. Teilhard de Chardin calls that something. He calls that the within. He also calls it the Christ. In the prologue to the Gospel of John, and you've heard this before, in the prologue to the Gospel of John, it's called the Word. In the beginning was the Word. Everything that came into being had its being through that Word. I like that, because if it's the Word, it sort of implies we need to listen to it. And I hope we need to respond to it. But we've got such a fixed idea as human beings, because we have the choice not to respond to it. We have such a fixed idea of what reality is that we have the capacity to say, we don't need to respond because it doesn't fit with my understanding of Christianity. Or it doesn't fit with my understanding of what it means to be a patriot. Or pick on any other religion you want to. It doesn't fit with that system. So, or with my family tradition. So we don't respond. We often don't respond. And we become so unresponsive that we fail to tune in. We fail to have those moments of be still and know that this is the hymn of the cosmos. This is the hymn of the universe that we're immersed in. You might even call it God, but we have come to think that we know what God is, so I would hesitate. Right? It's difficult not to even name God, because you're going to be mistaken. So here we are, in this fantastic cosmic symphony of life, and we refuse to get in tune with it because we think we're doing nothing.
Right.
I was at the Board of Ordained Ministry meeting for 2 days last week, Tuesday and Wednesday. And when there's a break in interviewing ministerial candidates, we talk about the challenges that the church is experiencing, and specifically the Methodist Church. We're dying. I've shared that with you a number of times. And what repeatedly cropped up, and it's a jargon expression, but what repeatedly cropped up was, with authority, we need a systemic change in the Methodist Church. Have you heard that? Systems analysis. We need a systemic change in the Methodist Church. But what was interesting about the discussion was there were certain things about the system that they in our discussion, refused to change. You getting this?
Yeah.
This is big. This is very interesting stuff. Hi, Keith. It's good to have you home. This is very interesting stuff. Albert Einstein said this in effect: if there's a problem in the system, you can't solve the problem by using the system that created the problem. And here we have these systemic things that we regard as foundational within Christianity that we cannot change. I'm not going to name them because it would be sacrilegious. You get it?
Yeah.
It's sacrilegious to name some of the things within the Christian system that we need to change, and yet we can't change them. And just to set this in the right direction for me as a Christian, I believe Jesus knew this. I believe Jesus tuned in to the cosmic chorus. I believe he saw within the traditional systems in his time, he saw that they were not tuning into the system because they become boxed in.
Yeah.
I'm not against Christianity. I just think we become boxed in, and that's why we're dying. There's a solution, says the prophets, says Jesus. Be still and know that I am God. Listen to the, we sang it. Listen to the song of the wind. Listen to the song of the harp. Listen to the dreams in the night. Listen. God is singing. God is singing. I love that image. Listen to the song. And then respond to it. It doesn't mean that Christianity or Judaism or Islam is bad. It just means we may not be listening. One of my favorite movies, there's two of them, The Field of Dreams and August Rush. Watch them both because both of them are listening. If you build it, he will come. Go the distance. Hell, we don't go the distance as Christians. We certainly don't go the distance in terms of a vision of our nation. We say, we have a vision for this nation and it's Republican. We have a vision for this nation and it's Democrat. No, it's libertarian for crying out loud. Listen, August Rush says, listen. Can you hear it? The music? It's everywhere. All you have to do is listen. And he did. It's worth watching the movie 7 or 8 times because he's listening and he hears it in the walking of the feet and in the rush of the wind and in the trees and in the fields of grain and in the comments made by other people in terms of just their conversation, and he catches the rhythm and he puts it on his guitar and then he composes it. That's what we're asked to do. That's what every one of us is asked to do. Is to listen to the word that has been made, the word that has been made flesh in each one of us, and hear the rhythm, so that we can begin playing the music. That's the end of my commentary today. But I have an assignment for you, if you will. Go to the adult ed class and listen to Mark. And also, that's a 10:45 to you right here. And the second thing is, this is harder. This is harder. Spend 15 minutes every day in quiet. And don't ask, I don't know how to meditate. It doesn't matter if you don't know how to meditate. It doesn't matter if you don't hold your fingers right. It It doesn't matter if you're not in a lotus position. It doesn't matter as long as you listen. Just sit in quiet. And I'll guarantee one thing. First of all, there will be a mighty wind that smashes all of your hopes to be quiet. And then there'll be an earthquake that smashes all your hopes to be quiet. And then there'll be a fire that burns up all the desires you have to really know the meaning of life. And you keep at it, you keep at it, you keep at it. And slowly, ever so slowly, you begin to hear a sound of silence. The prophet Isaiah said it this way. They that wait upon the Lord, that listen to the cosmic chorus, is another way of saying, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. God bless us.